Hi and welcome to Darvanalee Designs Studio. For those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed and today we are here to make a splatter guard for our bowl cozies. So let's get started. So, as you know, these bowl cozies are quite popular. This is actually the original one I made in my original video on showing you how to measure up your bowls and everything like that. And I'll link all this down below so you can go and see those. But I am getting sick of my children just sticking their food in there and then I've got splatter all over the place. When I put something in the microwave, I put something over the top of it, whether it be another plate or a dinner plate or something like that, but they don't seem to do that. So I said to them, I'm making some splatter guards and I would like you to use them. So this is what we're going to be making today. We've got some just straight stitching quilting. We've got a little handle on it as well. And I have made mine a little bit bigger, but I'm going to give you the formula on what size you need to cut yours for your particular bowl cozy. So you can make it with your scraps or anything like that. But mine sits over the top and you can see it goes a little bit past because this is my smallest cozy that I have. I have some bigger ones. And that means that it's not going to splatter all through my microwave. And these are washable as well. So you can just chuck them into the washing machine and get on with your day. And you can see here that it is quite heavily quilted and that just gives it the stability and also means that you can wash it and it's got a little handle on it. All right, so let's get into it. There are a few things that you need to remember. Now I have made mine at 10 and I cut my original square at 10.5 inches and it has shrunk down to 10.25. And the reason that I cut it that size is because I averaged it out over all the different size bowl cozies that I've got that my family use. I cannot rely on my family to pick up the coordinating one. If I made them coordinating, yes, but I'm using up my scraps and utilizing them for useful things around my house. So, and generally that's what my bowl cozy. So these were made with scrap fabric. There's no more of this fabric left. So I've just pulled a color out to match it, but they're not going to do that. I will, they won't. So when you go to measure your bowl cozy, so once your bowl cozy is finished, measure what size it is. It's going to be 8, 9, 10 inches square, depending on what size bowl you've made it for. Okay. Then what you want to do for this square here, you want to add 1.5 inches onto it. Now, the inch is to accommodate so it sits over the top. So it's not flush with it like this. It sits past it to stop any splatter. Okay, which also means that it's going to sit on the top of the cozy and not on your food. And the extra 1/2 inch is to allow for all the quilting that we're going to do. All right, so whatever size your cozy is, add 1.5 inches, and that's the size square that you need. Now, we actually have this as a self-binding. If you don't want to do a self-binding, that's fine. You can just quilt it and have your backing the same size. But I'm going to talk a little bit in a moment about why we've got it a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can see here, it's all one piece and it's all done on the sewing machine. And I'm going to link some videos up for you to have closer looks where I've done it on other projects as well. So let's get into it. Now you can see here that we are going to need some supplies. We're going to need rotary cutter, some rulers, maybe some quilting pins or just normal stick pins. We're also going to need some Roxanne's Basic Glue for a little tip that I've got. We're going to need a little bit of fabric for our little handle that we're going to need. We're going to need fabric for our project, an iron and an ironing pad, and of course we're going to need some quilting rulers, and of course we are going to need something to mark our fabric with. Now you can make this in any size that you want. So even if you were making this for a plate cozy, you would just have to make it the size to sit over the top, and you probably adjust maybe the length of your little loop for the handle, which you wouldn't really have to, but you would if you were going with a plate cozy. You would have to really quilt it a lot, and we are going to quilt this quite a bit today, and we're just going to do it in the crosshatch, really simple, keeping it basic, just straight line quilting. No, you don't need to have feed dogs that drop down. You don't even need to have a walking foot. We'll just make our stitch length a little bit longer, and then that way we'll be good to go. Okay, so we're not using any specialty equipment today. All right, so you can see here that I've got my square of fabric, and you can see that I've got a piece of calico on the back. And the reason I'm using calico is, one, because it is really cheap and stains come out of this really easily. It's really durable. and it quilts up lovely. And I've just used a piece of scrap fabric out of my scrap bin, and as I said, it was a little bit bigger than 10.5, so I've just cut off the little bit of extras and used the for the handle. Okay, and my batting is also the same size. Oh, it's actually just a smidgen bigger than my my 10.5-inch square there. Now, if you're doing it for a plate cozy or anything like that, measure what size your plate cozy is, okay, and then add an inch onto that for the batting and your top fabric. Your bottom fabric, as you can see, is larger than this, and the reason is we are going to, once we have finished quilting, we will roll this over and make a little binding with it, and that will encase everything. Now, I've got videos on the channel where I do this method for all my vinyl project bags, so if you want to see that, I'll leave links down below where you can go and see them, and I'll also card them up the top here. And so we're going to basically just quilt this together, and we've just made a little quilt sandwich. So we need to actually put some pins in. Now, I have my quilting pins, and these are a specialized pin. Okay, they are a curved pin. They make it super easy to pin stuff together, and we don't need that many. But if you don't have any of them, you can actually just use your stick pins. Okay, and generally what I do with that is I just put them, I sort of stagger them. Okay, and I usually have 2 or 3 finger spaces between them. This is only a small project. I wouldn't do this with a big project. It's just for those that haven't really done much quilting, don't necessarily have the specialized equipment that you need, such as the curved safety pins. These I use for my big quilts and all the rest of it, but I will leave a link down below where you can get them, because they are a handy tool to have. And then basically all you're doing is making sure that everything is nice and flat on the back, so you can see there. Okay, it's nice and smooth, and I'm just sandwiching that together, and I'm just using my flat pins. And I'll just stop it there because you get the general idea of what we're doing. And I'm just going to move that one from the center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a line from corner to corner. And I'll just get my long ruler for this. Okay, and that is going to be my guideline. So you know when we made our bowl cozies, we did the cross. We are going to do cross hatching. So I just need that guideline. And all I'm going to do is mark that there. Okay, and I don't care if I get marks coming back for this. You've got to remember, this is a splatter guard. It's going to get grubby. It's going to go into the wash a lot, and you're probably going to end up turfing it after maybe 6 or 12 months. Okay, so that's why you want to use really cheap cotton fabrics, not blends. They must be 100% cotton for everything. So 100% cotton in your backing, your batting, your top, your bobbin thread, and your top thread of your machine. Okay, must have all of that in there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I've got that cross mark, and that's my guideline. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to use my presser foot as a guide, and I'm just going to go backwards and forwards, starting in the middle. So I'll ankle it down, and then I'll go on this side twice, and then I'll come on this side twice, and that'll just help with the shrinkage as well. It won't make it warp or anything like that. So I'm going to change sides, and I'll just scoot around and all the rest of it. Now, what I want to avoid is going off onto this fabric here. Okay, I just want to quilt on this top fabric, because as I said, we are going to use this, and I'll just mock it up to show you, as a little binding here, and it's going to have mitered corners as well. So we want to be able to roll that. Okay, so if you don't want to have all the threads on everything on there. All right, so once you've done that, just set that aside for a moment and grab your iron and ironing pad, and you're going to grab a piece of fabric, just a piece of scrap fabric, doesn't even have to match, and it's going to be 4 3/4 in length and 2.5 inches wide. Okay, and then at the end, you can see here, I've done a little prep off camera. We're going to get our basted glue, and we're going to put a couple of little dots on our fabric, and then we're going to roll that over about 1/4 inch, okay? And then we'll press that with the iron. And then once you've done that, you're going to fold it up in half to find your center crease, okay? And then open that back up, and then bring your raw edges into that center crease. Give it a press, and again, for the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my basted glue again, and I'm just going to put a couple of little dots just near the edge, but not out of the edge. And then I'm going to bring that onto each other so they're nice and even. And then I'm just going to press that And what that's going to do, because it's a little piece, it's actually going to help me when I get to the sewing machine. It's not going to come apart. And we're going to actually stitch on this 1/8 of an inch increments all the way along. All right, so we're here at the sewing machine and I've got a little leader cloth in here and I'm just going to do a couple of stitches on that. Put my needle in the down position. Then I'm going to lift my needle up. And then I'm just going to pop my little piece underneath here with the open end here. And we're going to do 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I've got my little piece of washi tape here. That really helps me to be able to keep the consistent 1/8 of an inch. And then we're just going to start stitching. And you might have to help it through. And then we just turn around and we come back. Now when I come back, I can use the other side of my presser foot, and I don't know if you can see that or not, but on the other side of my presser foot, I've got a little toe just here, and I'm going to line that up with my stitching mark, and then that way I know that it's going to be okay. And as you can see, as you're stitching, it's starting to get a little bit stiffer. So I'm just going to keep stitching that, and I'm going to keep using my little leader cloth there to make it easier. Okay, so we've stitched all that down, and as you can see, we've got 4 lines of stitching on there, and that's given it a little bit more stability, and that's perfect for what we want. So now what you're going to do is set that aside. All right, so now we're up to doing our quilting. So all we're going to do for that is we're going to place it under our presser foot. We're going to make our stitches a little bit longer. Okay, that's going to help with the shrinkage of the fabric, and it will help not to shrink so much. Okay, and then we're going to line up our line and we're going to stitch on that as if we were making a bowl cozy. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to go from one end to the other. Now I'm going to leave the needle in the down position for this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift the needle up, and I'm going to turn, and I'm just going to come down a little bit, and then I'm going to lift my presser foot up again, and I'm going to turn it. Now I've come down far enough so it is actually lining up on the edge, this outer edge of my presser foot, and that's going to be my guide today. And I'm just going to go backwards and forwards, and I'll probably swap it up, and I'll go to the other side as well. I'll see how I go, because I don't want it to be wonky. And I'll just smooth as I'm going. And again, I'll just lift it up and I will scoot down the edge of the fabric. Now you don't have to worry about all this because it is basically going to be covered up by the binding anyway. Okay, and then I'm just going to continue doing that until it's done, and then I'll go back the other way. And the reason that I'm quilting it so heavily is because I want it to give it a little bit of body. I don't want it to be floppy. Okay, and by doing this, it'll actually help with that. Okay, so you can see there that I've just stitched that down. There's no puckering or anything like that, and you can see on the back it's the same as well. It's nice and smooth. And I've just stopped at the edge and I've turned and come down. So you could see what I was doing there. I'm going to continue doing that on the other side. And then when it comes time to, I've got all of the stitches going across, then I'm going to go back the other way. All right, so I'm going to keep doing that and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, so as you can see, we have quilted that quite extensively, and I'll bring that up a little bit closer for you. And I've just got like it's a little crosshatch that I've done, and I just started with that X in the center, and then I've just used my presser foot to guide that. And you can see that that has not puckered or anything like that, and I don't think it's shrunk down that much. So we started off with a 10.5 inch square. So let me just grab my ruler and see where we've ended up. So it's come down to 10.25. So we've only lost 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so that's not too bad. All right, so I'm not going to worry. So you can see here I haven't really come off the edge anywhere like that, which is really good. And this is going to actually, once it's done, it will sit on top of the bowl cozy. It won't sit into the center, and it hopefully won't touch the food too much. But this is 100% cotton, and as long as you've washed it correctly and everything, you should be right. And make sure that you wash this before you use it, because you've handled it a lot on the sewing machine and all that sort of stuff. All right, so as I said, we have stitched all that down, but we're not going to press it just yet, because we do have to work out where our little handle's going to go. So I'm just going to grab that. And we have no raw edges or anything like that. Get rid of any threads that might be hanging around that you don't want to be in the way. Okay. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of just eyeball it. But if you want to be dead center, you just fold it in half. Okay. And then place that halfway mark at our cross where our X crosses itself. Okay. And then you can just pop a pin in there. Where are they? There they are. Okay, and that's just going to hold it in place for just a second. And then what you're going to do is we're going to grab our pen and we're going to grab our little ruler, and we're going to come in about 1/2 inch from the edge and make a mark. So we've got our little pieces centered. Okay, and then I'm going to come in 1/2 inch and just make a little mark. And then I'm going to do the same on the other end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up to there. Okay, and then I'll grab my pin and I'll pop that into place. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same on this side, and you can see there that that's just given us a little bit of a rise in our little handle, so we'll be able to pull that off. All right, let that stick down. So you just want to bring it up so it's just so the edge of our little handle is at that mark that we just made. Having a bit of trouble getting that one through there. All right, and the same with this one as well. Get off. Okay, so you can see my mark, and then that's just there. Okay, and that's just given it a little bit of a rise, and so you can get your finger underneath there. Just all thumbs today. All right, so once you've got that pin in place, what you're going to do is when we go over to put our binding on, we will stitch this down, and we'll just use an 1/8 inch seam allowance and we'll stitch it down, and then that'll be secure on there. You can see there. All right, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of any excess wadding, so from our corners or anything like that, without cutting our backing fabric. So get rid of that. And up at this end as well. If you can get it off, if you can't, doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got rid of those, and this one's fine down this end. Oh, I could take a little bit off that one. There we go. All right, so I am just looking at this right now, and as I said, this is 10.25, pretty much all the way around, so that's not too bad. All right, so what we're going to do now is we are going to trim up our backing fabric, because we don't need this much here. We only need 1 inch all the way around. Okay, and so all I'm going to do is on the blue fabric, Okay, that looks to be nice and straight because I'm lining up the edge here and up here, and it looks okay. And I'm lining that up on my inch mark on my ruler, and I'm just going to make a cut. Okay, and that's given me an inch over here. Then I will turn it, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. Only this time I'm going to line up the edge of my ruler with the edge of that straight cut there, the 1 inch mark on the edge of the blue, and see this little junction here where I've got the little, that's lining up with the corner. Okay, and I can see that that is nice and straight now. So it's straight across the top, straight across here, and I've got an inch all the way down. Okay, and so I will just trim that off and slide my ruler down gently without moving it and get rid of the rest. And then I'm going to just keep doing that all the way around. So using now the top edge of my backing fabric, and I'm just looking to see that that is an inch all the way down, and it is. Making sure that it's nice and straight. You can use your mat as well to make sure that you've got the straight edge lining up on a straight line, and that will help. And using a longer ruler will also help as well. Makes it a little bit awkward to try and get on camera. And again, we're just going to do exactly the same thing. And as you can see, now we have trimmed that up and we've got an inch of fabric all the way around. Get that looking nice and straight. Give that a trim. Now, if it is a little bit bigger than an inch, don't stress it. That's okay. That's fine. All right. So, as I said, I will leave links to videos where you can get really close up and personal with this. Okay. But all we're going to do is we're going to grab our Wonder Clips or your pins. It's up to you, whatever you want to use. But Wonder Clips are so much easier. And all we're going to do is fold this over to the blue fabric in half, and then roll it again. Okay, so I'll show that again. So we're folding it in towards the blue fabric, not going onto it, just before it. Okay, and finger pressing is great because you can get, especially on calico, you can get a really nice crease with that. And then we're just going to roll that over. Okay, and then we'll place a Wonder Clip there. And then we'll come down to here and we'll keep doing that all the way down till we get to the corner. Okay, then I'm going to turn it, and now what we're going to do is we're going to finger press it and get a nice crease there, and then we're going to bring it in, but we're not going to come all the way down to the blue fabric. We're going to stop about about an eighth of an inch from the edge of the blue fabric. We're going to have that fold, and you can see there that's giving us a nice 45-degree angle. Then I'm going to bring that raw edge down to the blue fabric and press it, and then I will just roll this over, and you will have to fiddle a little bit to get it to roll over because we've got a little bit of bulk in there. But as I said, I've got those videos where you can see a really good close-up of this, and I'm just going to pop a Wonder Clip on that corner, and you can see we've got a nice little mitered corner there. And then I'm going to work my way all the way around. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to top stitch that down and also top stitch our handle, and then our little splatter guard will be ready to go. Okay, so we're back at the sewing machine and I've just moved the camera so you can see, I am lining up the edge of my presser foot, so it's on top of the fabric, not beside the fabric, it's on top of the fabric, and this measures around about 1/8 of an inch, okay, give or take. It's a pretty slim, and so I'll go scant 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to have that running on top of my fabric against that fold all the way down. Okay, I'm also going to have my needle in the down position, and when I get to my next mitered corner, I will actually do 1 or 2 stitches onto that mitered corner and then lift my presser foot with the needle in the down position and turn and go the next way. Okay, so just be aware that if you don't have a 1/4 inch foot like mine, your 1/4 inch on either side might only be 1/8 of an inch if you run it along the edge of the fabric, so you might need to measure it, or you set it up with your seam guide. Okay, and for those that don't know what the seam guide is, it's one of these little gadgets. You can get them from the Fat Quarter Shop, and if I remember, I will put a link down below because I'm always forgetting to put that link down there for some reason. But yes, anyway, back to the story that I'm telling here. So basically, yeah, we're just going to stitch that all the way down. Now, we are top stitching and we're going through some layers, so you want to elongate your stitch, so make it longer. Okay, to maybe 3 millimeters. Okay, when you turn your machine on, it's usually on a 2.5. Okay, so you just want to adjust it, do a little test patch, and that will make it super easy for everything to feed through without giving you too much grief. You're also probably going to need a tailor's awl as well. It's not necessarily, you can use the point of you know, a pin or anything like that, but it just helps to hold everything in place as you're going down. All right, so I'm going to start, and basically I'm going to put the needle in the down position because I've got to readjust everything. Okay, and you can see there that it's not going to move anywhere. If I stop, it's not going to change the trajectory of my stitching, and I'm just going to keep the edge of this foot against the I'll rephrase that. I am going to keep the edge of my foot on top of my fabric, not beside of the fabric. Okay, so I'm pretty sure you can see that pretty clearly there. All right, I'm just going to move the camera so you can see what I'm doing overall. So basically, we're not going to backstitch at this point. We'll do that when we come back around. Okay, so we're coming up to our corner here, and I'm just going to use my tailor's awl to hold that in place. Okay, and I'll stitch right up to that. And then I'm just going to slowly come up onto my mitered corner, and I just come up by 1 stitch with mine. Okay, you might need to come up with 2 stitches onto that next one, and then I'll just line everything back up again. And I'll stitch that down, and you can see there that I've got that nice straight stitching line, and my stitches are quite large. Okay, and it just makes it easy for everything to go through. This is a fold, so it's not going to fray or anything like that. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to sew our little handle on. So just taking that pin out, we're just going to go underneath, and I'm coming in about 1/8 of an inch. You can come in a little bit further if you want, but I'm going to come in 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to put my needle in the down position, and then I'm just going to do a couple of stitches and do a back stitch, and then come to the end and do a back stitch again, and then come to the edge. And basically what that's going to do is that's just going to anchor that down really well. Grab my thread snips, and then I'm going to repeat for the other side. And then our little splatter guard is done. All right, so that is our little splatter guard. Make sure that you get rid of all your long threads and everything like that, because you don't want them dangling in your food or anything. All right, so things to remember. You need to remember that you have to use 100% cotton for everything, including your bobbin thread. You're also going to want to make sure that you do a fair amount of quilting on it to give it a little bit of stiffness, okay? And when you work out what size you need. Now I've made mine a little bit bigger because I want it to sit over, so you can see there's my cozy, and then this goes right over the top of it, okay? And there's probably about an inch past each corner, maybe a little bit more, okay? And then I can just lift it off, and that is sitting on top of my cozy and won't be on top of my food, okay? And I've made mine a little bit bigger too because I've got different size cozy, so this way I'm covered all bases. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I do hope that you enjoyed making your splatter guard for your bowl cozy, or maybe even your plate cozy, depending on what you're making it for. If you did like this video today, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it across the socials with your friends, because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have made bowl cozies and plate cozies and would really appreciate a splatter guard. But that's it from me today. I hope that you have a wonderfully crafty day and get lots of stitching and sewing in, and I will see you all again next time. Bye.